want to welcome everybody that's coming in today, that's listening. We have a magnificent guest, a remarkable human being. And I can call him a friend, man, because he's helped me and helped Atithi in his journey of becoming what we're, trying to create this identity and approaching this whole endeavor as a way to bring value to the community. And a lot of your input that you're going to hear about him. A lot of his input has helped us kind of develop the idea. So let's bring him in. You guys you're in for a treat. So today we're here with a good friend of mine who is what I would say, he's a beer / I would say craft beer enthusiast as well as brewery enthusiast, award-winning columnist as well. He's also the head of marketing at Trace Brewery, and we are truly honored to have you sitting here today. His name is Aadam Soorma, and we are completely honored to have you here. Hello, Aadam. How you doing today, my friend?
Good morning, Corey. Thank you for having me, dude. I appreciate you.
Oh, man, not a problem. So, in this podcast, we like to go in depth about your journey to where you are at now as working for Trace, as well as how you got there. Mm-hmm. And what we want to do is try to bring value to the listeners and let them know not just the wins, but some of the emotions that a lot of people are just kind of not scared to face, and letting them know what it takes mentally to kind of get to the next level. I think your journey, as extensive as it is, since I was doing a little bit of research, mm-hmm. I think we can bring a lot of value to the aspiring craft beer enthusiasts that are trying to figure out how to get in the industry. So I first want to ask, where are you from, Aadam?
Yeah, my hometown. I grew up in Canton, Ohio, just south of Akron. Lived there, my whole life growing up until college. I went to Ohio University. That's down in Athens, Ohio. And then I moved to Pittsburgh in 2012. So I've been here about 9 years. It'll be 10 years next year.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let's go back, because I want to get how you got to Pittsburgh, but I want to stay in Ohio for a second, mm-hmm. right? So what, like high school? Let's go to high school. Who were you in high school? Were you the popular, QB, or were you the guy that was always in the books? What was it like growing up in Canton?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the city of Canton is very much like still a manufacturing town. It's funny saying that, because I know a lot of cities look to Pittsburgh as like post-industrial or post-manufacturing. Canton is still manufacturing. So if you think about the culture, my dad worked in a steel mill. That's right. What brought him to the United States from Burma. And for me, growing up, I really loved athletics. And so to answer your question, in high school, I ran track and I ran cross country. And it was so baked into my identity that people will be like, oh, Aadam, yeah, he's like that runner. He runs everywhere. So I ran track and cross country in high school, and I continued that in college. But as far as like identity or popularity or any of that, it was just sort of, I don't want to say a jock, but just an athlete. I really loved track.
Oh, were you like an avid reader or anything of that nature? How was your grades in school? Were you like really book smart, or did you struggle a little bit in school? What were the things that maybe you had to overcome?
Yeah, I would say so. As far as like book smarts, I was just kind of like above average or average, right in that like 3.0 to 3.5 range. Nothing like exceptional, but not quite like failing. I think that from a struggle perspective, the biggest thing was always just peer pressure, because I loved to party and go out and have fun with friends. And it got to a point where, the partying was affecting grades and running and right. athletics. It was my junior year. I was like 17 at the time, just like going out too much, not making the best decisions. And so, as an athlete, you want to get faster, you want to get stronger, you want to make progress. So like freshman year did well, sophomore year did better. Junior year, I actually took a dip and got slower. And then senior year, I bounced back. So that struggle was honestly just like, I loved hanging out with my friends, and I loved going to concerts. I loved music. That was just sort of taking over from a priority perspective. And I had to the coaches were like, yo, man, like you could really be something and be somebody right. if you just try to chill out and not party as much. Well,
I think that's important right there. What you just said, that to make these sacrifices to actually reach your goal. Sometimes they say with glistens, everything that glistens isn't gold. It may feel good, but it may not be good mm-hmm. for you at the moment. But as I do go through, all right, so let's go after high school, right? You made your way into college. Was it on a scholarship?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
So I I knew that when I came out of high school, I really wanted to run, and I wanted to only run Division One. So I didn't want to go to like a small school. I didn't want to go D3. I didn't want to go D2. To go D1, basically that filtered it way down to only a few schools that were willing to offer me money. So the only Division One school in the country that offered me a full Division One scholarship was Troy State in Alabama. Super random.
Well, but I mean, they do have a great name, actually. I've heard quite a few things from them, actually, growing up. So,
it's like, I would say size-wise, they're a little smaller than like Pitt, but that was the only D1 school to give me a full ride. So I took it, and I competed in track and cross country. I think I thought that coming in as a true freshman, they would redshirt me. Redshirt meaning you sit out a year. You just grow, you mature, you get used to the college lifestyle. And the coach says, we're going to save your eligibility for later. But I came in and I was actually already on varsity. So that was pretty cool to get to travel, to make the squad.
How good were you?
I was our number 3 guy as a freshman, and I was our top guy as a
freshman.
sophomore. Yeah.
As a freshman.
I was surprised too, yeah. But I think that speaks more towards their program than me. I think they just didn't pull as strong of recruits as, say, Alabama or Auburn.
Right.
The big D1 schools pull top talent.
Of course.
We were like a mid-tier, like almost like a mid-major Division One school. But we competed against, Florida State.
That's what I was going to ask. So when you were competing against these bigger universities, how did you hold up? I mean, how did you guys do?
Yeah, it was awesome because it pushed us to do better. I mean, as a team, we were not the strongest. We were a little bit top heavy. Our top guy was really, really good. He was, near, I would call him like, a national level runner. Then 2 through 7, your top 7 men are varsity and your top 5 are scoring. So I was number 3. So it's kind of right in the middle there, trying my best. But I would say, if anything, it taught me that, there's always someone faster and always someone better. Right. But at that, I was 18, 19 at the time, and I really, fully bought into running as an identity and as a lifestyle. And it was super cool to be like, wow, I'm going to be coming in and competing, when the coach was like, you made the top 7, you made the squad, and you're top 3.
That's heavy, man. I know you took a lot of gems from that too, right? The practices, going up to a new level, and those things, those little things, those wins right there, those are important, and you carry that throughout life, Mm-hmm. So let's carry this on to not just college, but graduating, right? What did you major in?
Yeah, so I studied journalism. It's funny, that's what kind of compelled me to transfer. So I did transfer after my second year to Ohio University to be a little closer to home. It was a better fit for my major, for journalism, and for running. Because I came into OU after being our top guy at Troy, and I went from being the number 1 man to the number 11 man. So there were 10 guys ahead of me, which was dope, because then I could get faster. So then my 4th year, I was trying to make the squad. I think I was like number 8 or 9 man, and then my 5th year I was our top guy. But the at OU, I studied journalism, and at that time, journalism has changed a lot, obviously, as we know.
Right, digitized and everything like that. I mean, we were literally just getting on social media probably at this time.
Yeah, because it would have been 05 to 10 was when I was in school, and Twitter launched in 06. So when I think about that as a function of studies, at that time, I'm so old.
Don't say that, man. You look like you're still in your 20s, my guy. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you. It was called magazine journalism. That's funny to say, magazine journalism, because at that time it was feature writing, doing stuff like this, interviewing people, thinking about investigative full-length feature writing. Dude, now with the advancements in social, the brevity is king. You want to be short, you want to be tight, concise. So I talk a lot, but at that era, I was we were taught to really research and information gather and do all this stuff that was geared towards writing a feature on Rolling Stone or New York Times Magazine, and now everything is just condensed.
Right. Well, you know why I say that's important? I say it's important because if you talk to somebody who is let's say a guru or a philosopher, they're able to take a lot of words and bring it into very short statements, right?
Yeah.
They can say a lot with a little bit, and there's a reason why that's important, because now you have more people that can understand. Somebody who is maybe advanced in their journey can take a lot from that, as well as somebody who is not as on that level can also take that same phrase, and it's so many things compacted in one. So it's a talent in itself, and then I believe because you had to go through that is the reason why when I do look at your stories, I get so much out out of so little.
Thank
You
you.
know what I mean?
Trying
I,
to,
I
yeah.
feel like that right there is a key, and maybe we should still be teaching how to do that, right? And then to bring that into this new age and condense it, saying so much with so little. For example, I'm gonna say a phrase. I heard this from a mentor who's very well versed, and he would say, life is the only teacher that gives you the test before you get the lesson. Something like that, right? So
Yeah.
there's so much in that phrase, but it's like, I don't care where you're at in your journey, you can grab something from it and tell that's it's something that means a lot by saying a little.
Yeah, that's deep. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge now with
Right.
taking it to a full-time, role, is doing what you said, taking a lot and then condensing it and getting a lot of bang for the buck and a lot of impact out of a short burst, basically,
So as we travel through your journey, right? So we went to Ohio University. You're mastering and you're getting your master's in journalism. Where did you take that master? Where did you take that degree after that?
Yeah, so that was actually just undergrad. After my bachelor's degree in journalism, I had minored in French, and that's where I got a job.
Oui.
Yeah,
Hello.
exactly. Yeah.
So is that what took you to DC or?
No, that took me to
Okay.
Cleveland. I worked as a translator for a French company out of French Canada. So I was translating for about 2 years, and I just didn't like it. I really did not enjoy it. It was very boring and dry. I mean, it's cool to speak French. Je parle français.
Hello.
Je pense que les personnes qui parlent français ici.
Talk that shit to him, man. Hello. You know?
It's cool to have that skill, but I wasn't satisfied. So I moved to Pittsburgh to go to grad school, finished grad school, and then I did end up spending a little bit of time in DC and in Philly as well.
Right. Let's talk about that, because if you look up Aadam, you'll see. You were part of the the United Nations. You had a UN Twitter that you were doing throughout your masters. What was that journey like?
It was cool.
And
Yeah.
what took you to DC? What
Man.
were you about to do?
Yeah, I do. So I finished up that 2-year stint translating, got into grad school.
Right.
That was at Carnegie Mellon. And at Carnegie Mellon, I studied public policy. And the reason I wanted to study public policy was I was so inspired by the Obama administration.
Oh,
and
tell
by-
me about it, man.
You know what I mean? Like, it was a dude who looked like us, who was doing the right thing, clean slate, no scandals or ethical issues. And I was really inspired by what I saw as like a future for actual change. So I was like, yo, I'm going to go to policy school, because I think that with the French background, with speaking Hindi at home with my parents, with journalism, if I can just, people were like, yo, you should get a master's if you want to work, actually in policy or politics. Like, you're missing this one part. And I was like, all right, man, heard. So I went to grad school, and then I ended up getting a fellowship at the UN. So the UN office in DC deals with relationships between the United States and the United Nations. So basically the whole purpose of the fellowship was, if you look at issues that affect the U.S. government and the UN, the big one is the budget, because we as a government, we fund a lot of the UN. Other countries do too, but anytime there would be a debate or praise or criticism, toward the UN from the U.S. government, that was handled in two different chambers of Congress: the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and the House Foreign Affairs Committee. So the fellows, we would go to Capitol Hill and just sit on those meetings and briefings, and anything that we would need to take and distill out as a function of public information.
Okay.
So
and where would you put that information?
on social,
On
Twitter,
social. Oh, and that's where the
Facebook.
UN Twitter came into play. So you guys were running that to
Exactly.
inform the public.
Just kind of like a gatekeeper, controlling the flow of information in and out, because
Right. You
if-
were telling the story.
Yeah, totally. Just storytelling. Yeah, just basically if you follow the United Nations and you follow any of that stuff on Twitter, that was what the fellows were in charge of, was coming up with parts of the social media plan that would be, just kind of divulging and sharing
Right.
Information that was public versus information that was, more private.
Correct. So, I know, just talking with you, right, the way you converse with everybody, you really embody whatever community you're in, right? You like to experience every aspect of a community. So when you went to DC, what was that like? What did you see there that you have brought? And we're going to fast forward to Trace. What was it? What was the environment like? What was was there even craft breweries around? Was that even becoming a thing at that moment?
Yeah, so this is like 2013, man. So it was a while ago. The main takeaway from DC, for me, was I did not like the culture there. I did not like public policy. I didn't like the people. What I felt that kind of was a little bit going against the grain of my values was there is such a heavy emphasis on work. And the culture reflects that. It's a very like one-upping and like kind of using folks to kind of gain, new things in your career. And it was so tied to work, and it was so tied to like that kind of toxic culture that what I thought was, man, like what I really love is like hospitality and beer and, the service industry. And it was funny to kind of, back into a career in food and beverage because a lot of folks start in food and beverage.
What did you really back into? Was that really a backwards move? I think it was forward, my friend.
Maybe forward.
I
it took
think
me a while.
the perspective, right? Mm-hmm. And you know what? Let's even go back a little further. Let's go to Jackie O's, right? Let's go to 2007 when you first realized like this whole, because when we talk about Trace Brewery, if you guys do not know about Trace Brewery, you need to step to Bloomsfield and check it out. It is more than just a brewery. Right, it's a venue. It's a place where even like you said, even if you don't drink, you can go and you can actually spend an evening there and having a blast and taking in everything. Right, so that's what we're going to get to. But I want to really dig into how did you even because you kind of came, you and Dave, correct?
Yeah.
You guys came up with something that is it's a model that we could use in so many different places where you can have it surrounded. This may be the product, but there's so much more to it, right? There's the people that are coming in. You care so much about the people. So I really wanted to, that's the finish line, right? I want to go to the starting point. When you went to Ohio State, there was a place called Jackie O's. And that's where that was like the first place that kind of represented what you're doing now, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. Definitely from a first sort of time experiencing a craft beer scene or a brewery, Jackie O's was the brewery in Athens, Ohio. There are now like 3 or 4. There are more now. At that time, going back to 06, 07, 08, it was the spot, man. And they built community around live music and events and culture. And they had, great beer and great food and a great staff. But the guys I looked up to, the older guys on the track team, they took me there because I wouldn't have found it on my own. Right. I felt like I was just going to the dive bars, just hanging out, They were like, hey, check this out. So I went, and it kind of opened up my eyes to what, beer could be and what community could be. And taking that lesson into Trace, for sure. I mean, like, we look a lot at the folks around us, and we look a lot at the community. And we thought about, like, folks who don't drink beer. So we introduced the coffee shop. So you walk into Trace, there's a coffee shop, open 7 days a week at 8 a.m. And then you walk a little bit past that, we have the actual bar, the beer side of it. And we wanted to do the double beverage because we thought that would bring in, new people that don't just, like, want to drink beer,
I mean, I just wanted to start with, I wanted to go there as well because we kind of missed that part, and I really wanted to tap in on that. We went to Troy first, and then you went to Ohio University, and that kind of brought you all the way to D.C., right, where we kind of left off. And now you're saying D.C., there was an environment that you just you weren't feeling, right?
Yeah,
it was toxic.
The takeaway was that's who I didn't want to be. Yeah, it was like, now I know who I'm not, which is important from an identity perspective. I don't know who I am, but I know who I'm not. I'm not a suit and tie, clock in at the office type of guy. Like, I was like, man, like, this is... these people are miserable, man. I don't know if they're happy. And I don't know. I can't speak for them. Maybe they are. Maybe that's how they live their lives. But like when I finished the fellowship and I was studying for an exam, it's called the Foreign Service Officer exam to work for the State Department.
Okay.
I was like taking these classes and I was preparing for it. And then I kind of I finished the prep work. It was through Johns Hopkins. I came back to Pittsburgh and I was like, I'm not even going to take the exam. I don't think that's who I am. I want to do something creative. I want to do something different. So I finished grad school and I finished all the prep work to sort of groom you to work in a government role. And I never took it any further than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the wins that you got out of that, right? Because that's not a loss. To me, that's an experience. And I think it's very valuable that you went through that, knowing who you were not before to find who you are, right?
Totally.
And that's I think that's the key. It's far more, they're going to hear me say this again, it is far more important for you to know who you are before you know what direction you're going. Mm-hmm. So, and you're going to find a lot of avenues, a lot of dead ends, but they're really not dead ends. They're just directing you back. Like, hold up, let's rethink this. It's recalibration, right? Until you find that thing that you felt like you're in this world to, you were born for. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So you go to DC. What's your next move after DC? Where'd you navigate to, my friend?
Yeah. So I came back to Pittsburgh. That was finished grad school after DC, and then believe it or not, the next stop was Philadelphia.
Philly.
So I moved to Philly to work for an ad agency. It was cool. It was really cool. I learned a ton. Super small team doing some really cool work. The reason I was in Philly was because the clients that we worked on, we worked for actually, the clients were in DC and New York. And my boss was like, yo, man, if you move to Philly, you're a quick train ride up to New York, and you're a quick train ride down to DC. Why don't we move you to Philly and, work from home and then go to the client sites and bang out all the stuff we're working on advertising. So that was cool because it was my first time having like a budget, having basically like a better understanding of how agencies work, servicing clients, doing a lot of social. One of our big clients was actually Easy Cheese, that squirtable cheese
You gotta
product.
be kidding me. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, seriously.
I did like a lot of Twitter work for Easy Cheese.
You still got like a box at the house, they probably dropped off a crap load of them. You just handed them out for Christmas, you know what I mean?
I had so many in my apartment. It was like a joke. Yeah.
Yeah, you probably can't even look at it right now, huh?
I mean, it's cool. Yeah, I didn't eat a ton of it. I know that it's maybe not the healthiest food. We probably didn't tweet about that, but I did have a lot of product at home.
Yeah. All right, that was a gem right there. But see, the one thing I keep hearing in your journey is the storytelling, right?
Yeah,
the journalism is still there, right? It's just, you were telling the public of what's going on and with the UN, and then going to Philly, and now you're telling the story of Easy Cheese and other companies like it. We're not just going to stick on Easy Cheese. So
totally.
There was so many more. But
Yeah.
you're constantly telling the story, and that's what I love about your social media. And I think you have so many. The skill level is just so. I look at it and I look up to it, right? So it's just like understanding that, because this is when social media is really starting to come to. When social media came in, and before, this was after you graduated and you got your master's and everything like that. How did you learn about it? How did you learn how to use it? I mean, we were all figuring it out.
Yeah.
So what was like your approach?
That's a good question. Yeah. So taking it back to DC, the UN fellowship was very, very digital forward, given that they assigned us, our role was to run a chunk of that social, particularly Twitter. So learning some of the ropes there with a team of, many, many people above us, that was cool to take feedback, to take edits, to take revisions, to understand that not everything is perfect, and learning how to experiment and tinker and just kind of getting it to where we can get the messaging right, because we definitely made mistakes too. So taking that and then working for the ad agency, when we would pitch clients, we had different sort of products or offerings we could have. But if it was social, it would typically go through me, and that was really cool because then we got to kind of see actual data and results and understand if what we were doing was actually making an impact, whatever the impact or the stated impact wanted to be. So learning social was just basically going job to job and client to client, understanding that, taking that experience into basically 2015. I helped a couple of my friends open a co-working space called The Beauty Shop.
Oh, The Beauty Shop, yeah.
So that was when I left the ad agency, I left Philly, and Philly was awesome. I got nothing but good things to say about Philly.
Okay.
It was dope. I moved back to Pittsburgh because my two good friends from grad school were opening The Beauty Shop, and they were like, hey man, we really need someone to kind of tell the brand story and the voice through social, and they wanted me to do it. And I was like, cool man, I'm happy to do that. That was a huge learning experience because it brought in the element of hospitality. For sure, because being creative and doing cool social stuff, whether it's photography or copy or storytelling or any of that, that's all great. But finally finding how much I loved hospitality, man, it was such an eye-opening moment because I realized that's what I should have studied. And I'm not gonna harp on that or be too hard on myself because it took me a while to get there. But that's what you now see with Trace, because dipping into hospitality, I was super, super inspired by the folks who work at Ace Hotel. When they opened in Pittsburgh, right around the time that we were, scaling up Beauty Shop, and they were right next door. So I would go there all the time and talk to their staff, talk to their marketing people. They did such an interesting job expressing that brand through events, through welcoming in the gay community, welcoming in the black community, welcoming in different communities to basically just a hotel. Because they had a dope restaurant and a dope event program and a bar. And I was trying to take stuff from that and bake it into my ethos to then express it, whether it's through beauty shop or
So that sounds like a lot, right? That's an overload for a lot of people that are trying to move forward. Because like, what about the emotions, right? When you first got that position, what were the things that you struggled with, and what were the things that kind of came to you that were like, I got this? How did you feel when you first started that journey with the beauty shop?
Yeah, what I felt was I needed a lot of creative freedom. That was a huge learning moment because I wasn't a partner, like a financial partner or an equity holder in the company. I was just the head of marketing, doing like all that stuff, and it was all good. There was nothing like bad or like tense, but I think that what I learned, what I struggled with was understanding what leadership sort of wanted expressed in the brand and their vision for it as a method of kind of telling that story. So because I was approaching the brand more from like we got to grow, we got to get all this content out there. And they were kind of like, well, we want to be targeted and we want to understand who these people are and get feedback and do it in a more just a classy kind of highbrow way because they really admire what they've created. So bringing me in to express that brand, I realized I needed more creative freedom. I couldn't be like, pigeonholed. And so that kind of like led to wanting to do something else. And that with Trace, the win to take it all back would be I have full creative freedom, which is dope. And like Dave's a great partner and a guy that, we work together on building this brand. And when I told him, I was like, this is what I need. And this is kind of where I see the brand going. But to get there, I need a budget and I need a lot of freedom. I need you to just trust me. Because I got this.
I know that's right, and that confidence came from that, right? And that's what I really wanted to dig in on, man. Because when you left, identifying that moment where it was like, it's time for me to move on. Mm-hmm. That's a tough thing for anybody.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to walk into whoever's employing you, be like, I like it here. Maybe there's some things that else in me that I need to do. Getting over that hump and getting in that room and saying, look, it's time for me to go. I have to go forward. I have to go do something else. Mm-hmm. So that transition is important, and and some people, they don't have a chance or opportunity to get there, mm-hmm. and they kind of stick with something that doesn't fit who they are. How do you approach a situation in a moment like that?
Yeah, I that's a great question, man. It's certainly a generational issue that I think back to our parents' generation and they just slogged it out, even if they weren't happy.
All the way, 9 innings. They just kept going.
Totally, man. My dad worked in that steel mill for 30 years to the month. That's bonkers to me because our generation is very okay with, leaving. So for me, I was just like, I wanted to freelance. So when leaving beauty shop, the next move was to go full freelance and just do my own thing. Pitching clients on my own, understanding how to build a business on my own. So yeah, I just kind of told them, that it wasn't difficult. It was just sort of like, hey man, I really think that I wanted to keep close to you guys. I didn't want to end that relationship because I just went from being in-house to out of house. So basically, the marketing lead in-house to servicing them as a freelancer with the same content. It was a very easy transition because I wanted to keep them with me. You
didn't want to burn. You didn't want to burn the bridge.
Totally.
Obviously, you wanted to keep it adjacent, right? You wanted to keep them in the loop, but I cannot be in house. I have to explore. Right?
I want to take on other work. Yeah. That was all it was, man. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I actually enjoy that. That actually is really that's really insightful, man.
Yeah, because I was thinking I'm not limited, but I felt hindered because I couldn't take on outside work when being a W-2 full-time employee. Right. So I was like, what if I quit, come back as a freelancer and take on other work that makes me more happy? And they were like, cool, we can do that.
Is this when the small green bus came into play, my friend?
Yeah, right around then, for sure. Yeah.
Let's talk about the Porter Tour, my friend. That was something special, man.
Man, it was fun. It was super fun. A buddy of mine.
If I look at your social media and the glow you have, it's just like, I found this thing. I got it. It's like the two greatest days of the day you were born and the day you find out why. Yeah. It looked like, hold up, man. I think I got something here.
Man, talk about a fun job. Yeah, it was so enjoyable. It brought me a level of joy that I had never felt in my life.
So let's tell the people what that is.
Yeah, man. So basically, a buddy of mine, Andy, he was online and he found an old decommissioned school bus for sale and he bought it. And he was like, yo, what if we take this old bus, get a vinyl wrap, call it Porter Tours, and make a craft beer tour bus that goes around Pittsburgh and visits breweries, and at each stop you get a tasting and you get a tour of the back. So Andy started this company and he hired me to kind of be the face of the company. And I drove the bus, I did the tour, I did the social, I did the marketing.
Did you have to get your CDLs or something?
I had to take the exam, take the drug test, all that shit. For sure.
For real.
Yeah, it was kind of funny to like be like, I don't even own a car.
I
and
know
I have a commercial driver's license.
That's what I was just about to get to that, right? Because I mean,
funny.
I always see you're on your Vespa, right? Or
my Honda, the moped.
Yeah, the moped, right? I mean, literally, rain, sleet, snow, that's your baby.
Yeah.
Like you don't care.
I love that thing.
I know. It's official. And to hear that you have a CDLs,
it's pretty funny that like, this dude has a commercial driver's license and no car, but yeah, I have my moped and it's dope. I love riding that thing.
Man,
but
it looks fun.
Thank you, man. But the Porter Tour was so awesome because so Andy bought that bus at the end of 2016 and I came on in February of 17 and we did it all the way up till COVID. And the funny thing was, as we grew our business, so as we took people on these beer tours, the breweries were just opening every week, one by one. Dude, it's crazy to think that like at that era, there were, I think probably 25-ish breweries in this county. And today there are 43. So we've almost doubled, and as new breweries opened, we would ask them, say, hey man, can we bring our bus? Can we bring our people to your brewery as part of the tour? So we were growing our, basically our repository of breweries we could go to. And we built routes that just made sense based on traffic, based on beer style, based on events happening in the city. If it was like a Steelers game day, we knew to avoid the north side.
Of course,
like, we're not dumb.
Of course,
like,
right.
We would build these routes around just like what's going on in the city. So we had a really cool route that went east, like this way to Sharpsburg. We'd hit like Dancing Gnome, we'd hit Hitchhiker, we'd hit East End. We would go like west to McKees Rocks, we'd hit Abjuration. We had all these cool routes built and man, I get so excited talking about that because.
How would they find you? I mean, were you in like a tour guide, or what was the whole thing? How did you guys approach that marketing wise?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, the only thing, so we didn't do much. But
I'm sorry the way you said it.
No, it's cool. Andy so his day job at the time, I was freelancing, just doing my content marketing, and Andy actually worked in digital marketing, particularly in Google. So Andy had such a good knack for optimizing basically search engine optimization, like Google search. So we put some money into Google against keywords like brewery and tour and brewery tour and bus tour. So if you Googled like, I want to take a brewery tour, we came up at the top. So Andy optimized the SEO so well that was our only true spend. And then the other thing we did was just social, which was me. So that's kind of like, if you think about it as like, putting money against a goal of like, driving sales of the tour, the Google stuff that Andy optimized on the back end was super effective. What I did was just storytelling, was just kind of like basically rounding it out. And I don't think that my efforts led to like direct sales, maybe a little bit.
You pretty much ran the tours. Andy was on the other side, right? That was kind of this. The tour was really. I've heard so much about it before I even knew who you were.
Yeah.
So that was crazy when I looked it up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was so cool because there's like a local publication called The Incline, and we won a tourism award in 2018. And that was cool. It was a cool moment to get recognized for our efforts. But we were just, doing the beer tour. It was super fun. It was only on the weekends. Just the ultimate like side gig to drive this bus around Pittsburgh and visit breweries.
You sound like you still got some of that in you.
Sure.
What are you thinking about? Because it looks like there's something on your mind. You thinking about bringing the Porter Tour back?
That would be cool. I did actually think about it a lot. I think, dude, it was so fun. I think that present day, the only sort of like part of that I've still breathed and, kind of expressed that culture is on the flip side of the tour. When we would approach a brewery, there'd be, a bartender or the owner that would give part of the tour of their brewery. So I now do that at Trace. So we get tours coming in. I'm like, I remember being in that dude's shoes. There's this dude, what's his name? I forget. Braxton. And Braxton is this dope black dude who works for City Brew Tours. So
hello, Braxton. What's going on with you, man? Shout out to Braxton.
Shout out to Braxton. He comes he comes to Trace and he brings these people on his bus, and he is me. And it's funny because now I'm interfacing with Braxton and he's bringing these people in that have never been to Trace, never been to Bloomfield, and they're walking in, they're taking a look around, they're trying our beers, and I'm talking about the brewing system. Like, hey, this is where we mash, this is where we add yeast, this is where we add the flavor. Like, they're going to see the process, and it's cool because I still get to scratch that itch there, but on the brand side, because I'm at Trace. So people come in, they meet me, I'm like, hey, I'm the head of marketing. I'm going to show you how the beer gets made, and I get to kind of have that hour or that moment with them to still have that kind of that fun.
You know what's real cool too as well is that Braxton can see where it can go.
Totally,
right?
Totally. He's younger than I am,
and just inspiring, right? Inspiring the younger generation, right? It's giving them a light at the end of that tunnel.
Yeah,
right.
Dude, yeah.
Like so I can travel to a new land.
Exactly.
It's so dope. So COVID kind of cut that short, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It was short lived a little bit, but I think there was a lot that went on in that life.
Dude, it brought me to my career. Yeah, I mean, beer is great and it's fun and it's a cool beverage, but what I learned was like that community aspect and like seeing people have these moments of learning and these really fun moments that they take with them the rest of their lives. And that's what, when Porter ended, as it was ending, and with the pandemic, that's when I got into more, I would call it journalism, like because I was a beer columnist.
And WTAE. Right. Then we went to very local Pittsburgh. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. So basically, what happened was WTAE, the local TV station. So WTAE was like, yo, our audience is older television audience, suburban. They're just not, they're not understanding the city properly from a food and beverage perspective because it's just a different audience. So they're like, we'll keep TV and we'll handle like, news, sports, weather, crime, all that's TV. But for digital, where they're like, we're going to launch very local, and very local is going to be three things: food and beverage, arts and culture, and events. So they peeled off this digital budget to launch this website that they funded. So we didn't make any money. We were just telling the stories of restaurants, coffee shops, bars, breweries, and all of that. And I came in as the lead digital. So I was the head of digital for Very Local when it launched at the end of 2018. And the cool thing was I had a good amount of budget and a good amount of creative freedom. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to where I told my editor, Lindsay, I was like, yo, I want to do a beer column because I think that I have the experience. I did Porter. I was a tour guide. I have relationships with all the breweries. I'm the right fit to do this. And as a person of color, it's pretty cool to be able to bring that expression of beer into it's a pretty white scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a little clear.
Yeah,
I got you. I understand. I got asked.
I want to be that voice. I want to do that. So I proposed a column called ABV, and ABV, which in beer stands for alcohol by volume. So that measures the strength of a beer. And I called my column ABV because it's something that a lot of folks know when they read a beer label.
That's what they're reading for, right? Like, is this going to do the trick? Right. You know what I mean? So it's I know exactly what it is.
Totally.
That's pretty dope, man.
And yeah, thank you. And so that column ran every Tuesday. It was a weekly column.
We're going to talk about that.
Like almost 2 years, I think. I think it was 2 years. It was crazy, like how many things I wrote, but
and then you were noticed, right? 2020, right? The Pennsylvania Press Club Golden Quill, man, award.
Yeah.
Hello, I mean, come on,
that was pretty cool.
That is absolutely. I mean, that's somebody. Usually people work years to be recognized, and this was for non-daily journalism, right? So there had to be a heck of a column, my friend. It had to be a heck of an article. So like, let's talk about how good that felt, right?
It was cool.
The journey, right? You creating something from your experiences and people actually generating like value from it, as well as helping a community that's up and growing become even stronger.
Yeah.
Like you, man, my friend, I'm gonna give you your roses now and clap. You know what I mean? Because I truly believe that the connection of what's happening here has you dribbled all through it.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Thank you, man. It means a lot. So basically, at the end of 2020, my column won the Western Pennsylvania Golden Quill for best column for non-daily journalism, in this area. And it was cool because what the folks. So I didn't even know it was up for an award. My editor must have submitted it, which was cool that she submitted my column as like, hey, we're going to throw this hat in the ring for maybe Aadam will win an award. Who knows? And then it did. And that was crazy because what the folks on the judging panel had said was they pulled out some of my pieces that talked about the way that some of these new breweries, when they open and they impact the community, it just goes back to community, like what you were talking about. But, at the, what was it, 2018, I think it was, Lincoln Avenue is a brewery that opened in Bellevue, and the guy who opened that brewery went door to door because it was a dry borough, so there was no bars, no alcohol. They were a very strict dry borough. And he went door to door before the election to put it on the ballot and change the policy to be like, yo, I want to open this brewery. I promise you, it's not going to bring crime. It's not going to bring, drunken driving. It's not going to bring all this bad stuff. I think it's going to bring good stuff because I'm going to have a restaurant. It's going to be a family-friendly space. And he changed the law, opened his brewery, and the whole community is very, very bought into that concept, and it's dope. And I wrote about that in like a feature about Grant, this dude who was like, hey man, I want to cover you in my column. Let's sit down and do an interview. And I think that happened in parallel to other communities that would get a brewery, it would open, and people felt like, oh, this is like our spot. It feels cool. And I covered a lot of these new breweries opening in that way.
Exactly.
And that propelled my column to the
and that's something I wanted to ask about as well, because I feel we have breweries, and then we have bars.
Yeah.
And there's a stigma. There's a stigma that bars cannot provide this. Like they're thinking breweries are taking over the whole field. Taking all of the clientele. Is there a point where you guys work together? Because I know breweries, they sell what they sell in their facility. Do you guys like sell other breweries also their beverages as well in your brewery, or do you go to local bars and try to work with them as well? Is that something that's common? I'm asking because I'm just curious.
Yeah,
I don't
it's a good
know.
question. I would say if you look at the fabric of bar versus brewery, you're talking more about the audience, because I think folks who really love bars, whether it's a sports bar or an elevated cocktail bar or a wine bar, any experience you want to have as a takeaway, you're going to be loyal to what you're loyal to, and they're going to continue going to those bars. For the brewery culture, because it's beer and it's craft beer, and a lot of the beer in this city is quite similar. If you really want, sort of a refined, I don't want to say fine dining, but it sort of teeters on fine dining experience as a function of beer, a brewery might be a good fit, because typically a tap room, or a tasting room as they call it, doesn't always have a TV. Some of them do, but you're there to have a cool conversation, to enjoy some music, to hang out, have your beer. And I think that it provides that third space. It's not home and it's not work.
I got
it's that third space.
I got you.
And for Trace, we definitely embody that because we have the coffee shop as well. So anyone can walk in.
Which is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, man. So I would say we definitely do send our product to bars. For example, we have a really close relationship with Spirit. Spirit is a bar in Lawrenceville, and our GM, Katie, came from Spirit. And so she's our general manager. She and I work together on a lot of the events and festivals and things happening in the front of house. And Katie was like, hey, once we get open, once we get rolling, let's send a keg every month to Spirit, because they should carry our beer. And they do. And it's dope. And we're getting good feedback. People that don't come to Trace but go to Spirit can drink Trace beer there. As long as it's available.
See, that's what I'm talking about. And that's something that was common when I was researching and just in reading a lot of articles about you. The one thing that I thought was absolutely remarkable, and I feel like it's really part of the culture that you've created, was the fact that when you're doing an article, I hear about Dancing Gnome. I hear about other breweries. You were giving them their roses as well. You're not, the light's not all about, it's bigger than breweries. It's bigger than beer. It's big craft beer. It's bigger than that. There's a community that you guys have at these breweries that I feel is astonishing, man.
Yeah.
There's like a camaraderie. Question was, what was one of your best experiences at a brewery? And you spoke of Dancing Gnome. But you talked about a situation, where it was at another brewery. And I thought that was really cool, the fact that, most people who are running a company look at other companies that are similar as competition.
Totally.
Where I see you guys, I'm talking about all these breweries around here, working together, putting on festivals with each other, and certain things, and really there's a community there that I feel is that's pretty strong, man.
Yeah, I think it's unique to Pittsburgh. I think that speaks to this city, man. It's funny coming here from the outside, from Akron, Canton, looking at how they approach maybe competition versus collaboration. This city is collaborative, man, especially in beer. I know that because I work in beer, but you're right. I definitely feel like when I take a look around the beer community, it's particularly at breweries, all of them are very willing to work together. I mean, to the point where we share ingredients, we share grains, we share hops, we throw festivals together, we send our guests, because guests might come in, have a beer, yo man, that was cool. where else can I go? And our whole staff is trained to be like, yo, man, if you want to keep it local, there's a spot nearby. If you got a car and you want to drive a little bit, we like this spot as well. We always shout out the homies, and we always
shouting out the homies, man. That's important, right? Now, as me as an artist, right? Because I think you are an artist as well. You are a creative. You know what I mean? Creating, telling the stories, not just creating, but taking from reality and putting it in a way that can be truly digested. But as an artist, and I think this is something that we realize as well. Collaboration helps us push each other up the ladder. Mm-hmm. Like to know what I'm good at and to find out what I'm not good at and that you may be good at. You actually give me that information, and there may be something I'm great at. I'm more willing to give it to you, and it's like steel sharpening steel. Mm-hmm. And as you realize and you look around, and a few years later, you guys are up here together, and now the community is strong. It's a strong community where some people are, I'm not going to say some people, but the regular way most people would look at it is, I have to be up here, not we have to be up here.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And it's more than a me thing, it's a we thing, and that shit is beautiful.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. I love to see it. And let's talk about your position, right? Because you went from WTAE, and now, like, that has led to the position at Trace. Did you start off as the head of the marketing?
Yeah, so basically what happened was from the end of 2018 until basically the beginning of this year, 2021, I was just full-time at Very Local at WTAE. So I was doing that, and I had to have that kind of difficult conversation with my editor to be like, hey, I know I like lead this whole digital presence, but I really want to work at a brewery, and there's an opportunity coming that I'm going to take. So I resigned in January of 21 to basically help open Trace. And I was working at the time, I was quietly helping Dave ghostwriting some of the social and the web and the brand elements in 2020. I didn't tell anybody this, but I was already kind of like talking to Dave, and I was like, yo, man, I think I want to do this together. I definitely can be your head of marketing. Like, that's like a no-brainer. I understand the culture, and I understand the beer and the brand and the vibe that we want.
How long have you and Dave been talking about this?
Man, so we've been talking about doing Trace since 2018. It's crazy, man. Like, we met because we were neighbors, and we would drink beer on his porch and hang out and just talk about beer. And he loves beer, and he's worked in breweries, for 10 years. And when he moved here from Boston, I think it was, he moved to Lawrenceville, and we were neighbors, and we started talking about it. And he was I didn't know if he was joking or if he was for real, because he was like, I want to open a brewery. And I was like, yo, man, if you do, like, call me, like, let me know, because I'd love to help build that brand, because I understand, I see things that I like and that I don't like, and I wanted to kind of learn from that and express the Trace brand in a way that was, like you said, community, open-minded, open to all. So he started getting serious, and he started raising money, and he got a building, and he hired a brewer, and he got a system, and all this was happening at the end of 19 into 20. So in May of 2020, we quietly had a meeting, and I was like, yo, like, it's happening, right? He's like, yeah, we're going to open this brewery.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So I was like, give me a few months to, like, figure out stuff with Very Local, because I'm going to quit, and I'm going to join you full time.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But you moved on, and that right there, the entrepreneurial spirit, because you're letting go of a safety net, and a lot of times people think that's like the worst thing ever. That actually can push you. It can be inspiring. There's a story about story time. How about that? So there's a story about a general who had taken his army over to an island, and all of the soldiers got off, and then he turned around and he burnt the boats. He burnt the boats. And the reason he did that, because he looked back at him and said, there's no retreat. There's no retreat, right?
Yeah.
Either we're going to conquer or we're going to die.
Yeah.
And they went and conquered. And they didn't just conquer. They conquered, built, and did everything else. And the moral of the story is sometimes getting rid of that safety net is the key.
Yeah.
And it can propel you, because you're going full-fledged at this. You're not, no hesitation, no wasted moments. Every time I see you, you're on that. You're on that thing, making something happen, and it was inspiring in my journey. And I was like, oh, I know what I want to be when I grow up. You know what I'm saying? That's the feeling you get. Just seeing you, really go hard at this.
Yeah, I wanted to fully commit. Yeah, that was what I told Dave at that time when I was like transitioning out of Very Local and we were opening Trace. I was like, if we do this, I'm all in. Yeah, so that was definitely the if getting it down to one tweet,
Yeah.
you know, I was just like,
I love that.
yo, man, I was like, if we do this, I'm fully committed. I'll be the head of marketing, and we will build this brand. And this is what I need as far as resources and my team. And you know, we just talked about it pretty openly. And I got to bring on our photographer, Julie. I've been working with her for about 4 years off and on, seeing her grow and develop and work. And so I was like, yo, like, you know, I'm going to do this. And this is kind of like what I'm envisioning and what we need to do this together. And he gave me the proper budget to pay her, to bring her onto my team. So I have 2 graphic designers and 2 photographers who report to me, and that's the marketing team at
Hello,
Trace.
that's the
'Cause I
team
wanted
right
to do it,
there.
like, together. You know?
Shout out to the team. Shout
Yeah,
out to the
for
team.
sure,
y'all out there killing it. I love what y'all doing. So, yeah, man. So, all right, you're at Trace now. You know, you guys have got this thing started up. What did you start as? Like, what was the first daily routine that were you tending, or were you, you know, how did you build this story? You know?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that it started with just the people, because the core team that opened Trace was the founder, the GM, myself, and our head brewer and the vocational brewer. So I sat down with each of them just to hear their story, just like this. I said, tell me about what you've worked on, what you've done, you know, what you're inspired by, who you look up to, just all that shit, because I wanted to kind of absorb it and understand it. And when we launched the social channels, I wanted to come out the gate super strong, and I did it through storytelling of their stories, talking about, well, this is Katie, she came from hospitality. This is Zach, he came from brewing beer. This is Dave, he comes from like this background. And yeah, just making sure that people knew the people behind the brand. Right. Yeah, exactly.
You let the public into the room as you guys put your soul on the canvas.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And we also had to, because we were new in the neighborhood, the other part of the brand that I felt was super important to like tell the story of was the story of Bloomfield, and to celebrate these other local businesses. So a big part of my early efforts were bringing on photographers to shoot at different times of day with different light, and just to capture moments at other local businesses and give them the real estate and the love on our channel, because we were new to that neighborhood. So there's no way we're going to build trust or credibility by being like the new face on the block. So I was like, we got to just give love back to these other businesses. And to do that is, you know, the best that we can day by day. I baked into the marketing strategy a portion that is just celebrating the neighborhood. Because if we came in as like new and tried to like flex and be cool, people are gonna be like, no, man, you just got here. Like,
yeah, right.
I've
I've been here.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We've
Like
been here. Yeah,
we've been here.
Old folks who've been there for years.
We've seen this before, right? Like,
Totally.
so what you did is you built this off of love, right? Loving where you're at, and actually letting them feel the love, right?
Yeah.
Not just telling them, but actually doing actual concrete actions that you know, show you like, look, we're here for you.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah, it was important to Dave too, because he does it in a more on the ground level, where he actually goes door to door before we have concerts or shows, and lets folks know, hey man, it might be loud. Hey man, you know, can we buy you around?
I'm okay with it now.
Yeah.
I'm okay with, if you know, we're going to have some noise. It's one thing for me to come in and not know it's going to be there.
Totally, man.
But it's another thing was like, you know what? They knocked on the door and told me like, all right, cool. Well, I got time to prepare. You know what? I'm just going to schedule me going out to go to dinner, take the wife to dinner, you know?
Something, yeah.
Just having that consideration, you know, for the neighborhood is big. You know, when we started at TT, me and some of the team, we went around and we knocked on each of the doors and introduced ourselves. And this building that we're in now is not just to hold value to the artists here, but to the art community as a whole, and the community as a whole,
Yeah,
right? We made
sure.
sure that we want to bake in the core values of the town we're in, so we can be a true extension of this neighborhood.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's exactly
and that's it's just beautiful to hear that coming from somebody whose work I admire, and the way you approach things. So it's like, it just tells me, okay, we got something here going on the right track. But you know, so the community, they didn't just buy in; they became part of you guys.
Yeah,
You know?
I think so. Yeah, that was the kind of getting started to your question about like, how did I kind of get this going? Yeah, we didn't have beer off the bat. You know, we were just getting started. So I was sharing the story of the building, sharing the story of our construction progress, sharing the story of the neighborhood and the people behind it, and just kind of like, you know, building that foundation. And then when we did have beer, it was COVID, so it was all takeout only.
Goodness,
so we were just posting, you know, we had cans, you could take
Right.
stuff home. come in, buy it, mask up, take it home, try it out, let us know what you think. And that was cool because that opening weekend, it was exactly a year ago this Friday. So it was December 17th, 2020, we opened. And the opening weekend, we sold out of all the beer in the first 2 days. And it was an amazing like influx of quick revenue. And it was like, it looked cool to like be part of the community and be able to sell out. And we had to close because we were like, oh shit, you guys bought everything.
Okay.
And that was like a really,
So-
Dave was like, damn, like the marketing paid off. Like it kind of like justified my existence.
So
know?
you they say you should judge success by the seed you planted, not the harvest you reap. You guys planted the seed.
Yeah.
You planted the seeds, and that was just the residual of your work. That you guys put in. They gave the love back to you. Now you said there was no beer at first. So how long does it take to brew beer, and what if somebody's starting? How do they get past that point, right? Because you're going to open up, and there's going to be no revenue. So this approach seems to be something that benefited you guys, right?
Yeah, so typically like to brew beer, you're on a cycle of roughly, depending on the style, about 2 weeks. So you brew your beer, it sits in a fermenter, a vessel, for about, I would say between 9 and 13 days, and it's fermenting, and then you carbonate it, cool it, and then you can serve it. So the reason I say we didn't have beer was because we weren't able to pass all of our inspections. We actually had beer, we just couldn't open. So we thought Trace would open in September of 2020, which was cool because it's still nice out. It would have been really beautiful to have the outdoor beer garden open and all of that. So we brewed a bunch of beer and we just couldn't get through all our inspections. So we took that beer and we drank it and we gave it to friends and family and we gave it to like just people because we couldn't sell it. So we had already canned it and we just gave it all away. People gave it to weddings. We were just doing whatever we could to just get it out of the cooler. Then we brewed again, and that was when we could open. So but there was a whole
The flaw became the feature, man.
What's
The flaw became the feature,
Yeah.
right? Now you're giving it away. Here, you don't even have to buy it. Just here, take this. Now they know who you are as well. You still have labels on there and everything like
Totally,
that. So
yeah.
so it was. Sometimes you got to give to receive. That's just a straight up way of doing it,
Yeah.
and it seemed to work out, my friend.
Yeah, it was cool, man. It was cool that people could just try it out and get a little taste of it. And then when we did open, that like process for if you drink lager takes like 4, 5, 6 weeks to brew. It takes longer. But if you're drinking IPA or Saison or stouts or porters, that's about 2 weeks. So we were like, all right, if we can get through this inspection and open, we have all this beer in the tank that's good to go. It's ready. It's carbonated. Let's see if we can like sell that. So that moment happened in December. We could finally actually open, but it was takeout only. And then we opened the tap room in February for on-site, and it was just at like 15%. So it was just 7 tables, super spaced out, masked up. Everybody was like trying to keep it safe. And then we fully opened in June. So we're pretty new. We've really only been open like with a bar since June, and then we opened the coffee shop in July. So each month we were adding new elements to the brewery with our beverage program and the events and all of that. But yeah, to be honest, it's just been
Man,
a happy year.
well, I'm just going to tell you, man, your story is absolutely dope. I didn't even get the chance to tap on the CMU sommelier certificate. I didn't know that was a thing, the beer sommelier.
Oh yeah, you're talking about
sommelier.
the Cicerone.
Cicerone. Ooh,
Yeah, that's
excuse
the beer
my.
sommelier.
Yeah.
I would love to. I haven't ever taken that exam, but I'd love to someday.
All right. Yeah. Well, you know what? I think we talked about the story, right? We talked about the whole story, and it's just great that it kind of goes in full circle like that. I want to say, man, you guys are writing a hell of a chapter, and as this book, as it gets bigger and bigger, and the introduction was beautiful. That first few chapters is great, and as it gets to where it needs to be, right, and becomes volumes, man, I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be a great read. I can tell it. I can tell you now, it's starting off. It's one of those books I don't want to put down, and you keep telling your story. We want to tell you we appreciate you, and thank you so much for being on the Art of Conversation today. And we just wanted to say, man, you are absolute gem. We appreciate you. Keep going out there. Keep doing this, and keep it rocking, man. And thank you so much. Is there anything you want to say where they can find you?
Yeah, man. I mean, I would say the best way to find us is just, online. So we're just tracebloomfield.com. It's just Trace and then Bloomfield neighborhood.com. And then on social, we're just at Trace Brewing on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And that's the best way to kind of know what's going on from, just the brewery perspective, the food trucks, the events, the festivals, all the stuff we're working on. Appreciate your time, man. Thanks for letting me tell this story. Congrats on launching a Teethy as well. This is awesome. It's a lovely studio in a really cool space, and it's huge for Sharpsburg. I live here in Sharpsburg, and so I pass the Teethy daily on my way to Trace, and it's cool to see it open and thriving and happening. After you put all this hard work in.
Man, we appreciate that. We really do, and thank you, man. It's we thank you for the assistance. Your marketing skills, the way that you approach things. We embodied a lot of that as we sat down for meetings before this came through.
For sure. Happy to.
It was just it's an honor, and that's really why I love the fact that you're on here. It's because it's you're a piece of this. Piece of you is in here as well. So it's just great to it's great to really put more of yourself here and your energy, and we're gonna keep going forward, man. Hey guys, thank you again for listening. All right, we out. Bye bye.
Thanks.